of us have three different types of nature: being with harmony with ourselves, being a very dynamic person, being lazy or inert. This is what we call as sattva, rajas, and tamas in yoga. So, what these are, what are the different types of nature each one of us belong to? That's what we're going to be discussing today. I'm Harsha Nagaraj. Welcome back. Three types of nature. First is the harmony, what we call as sattva guna. Second one is rajas, what we call as the dynamic quality we have in us, or the dynamic approach that we have towards wanting to do things or getting things done. The third one is tamas, what we call as inertness or inertia or laziness. Each and every individual soul that is born as human on this planet Earth belongs to one or the other category that I just spoke about. You'll belong to either sattva, you'll belong to either rajas, you'll belong to either tamas, or you may belong to each one of these, and you'll have each one of these as a part of you. It depends. It depends on the nature of the person. We can't say in the very beginning of the stage that a person is completely with harmony with himself as soon as he is born, unless he or she is an incarnation of god and goddesses, or he or she is completely dynamic all the time, or he or she is lazy all the time. It's not possible. See, all of us have harmony within us. All of us have this fire, zeal, or enthusiasm in order to do things in our life, in order to get things done in our life. And all of us are lazy or we procrastinate at some or the other point of life. Each and every one of us have these three qualities, to be very, very honest with you. When we sit in silence, when we sit and meditate, when we sit in silence to offer our prayers, when we sit in silence listening to the person who's giving really inspiring talk, or when you listen to those podcasts, or when you listen to those saints whose words are like an arrow that just penetrates your soul, at those times you are with harmony with yourself. You are in complete silence with who you are on the inside. This is one of the best examples to understand what sattva guna is. Another approach towards understanding what sattva is all about: you are in peace with whatever work you're doing. That's one of the best ways to understanding what it means to be a sattvic person. Being a sattvic person doesn't mean you stick to sattvic food, which is usually vegetarian diet, mostly vegetarian diet, which also means easily digestible food where maximum energy is released from the food that you consumed and less energy is used for digestion, and from whatever the food that you have consumed, all the essential nutrients that are needed for you and your body and your mind to function is released into the bloodstream, and you can practice and you can grow on the path on the path that you have chosen. Sattvic food does mean that you have to abstain from meat and those foods which need a lot of energy for you to digest, because when you're on the path of yoga, it's very essential that you conserve the energy. We are working all the time to conserve the energy, to make sure whatever energy that we are gaining by the practice of either the asana practice or the pranayama or the meditation is effectively utilized within you. If all this energy that you have been inculcating within yourself from all the sadhana that you've been doing just goes into digestion of the food, it's of no use. See, every time a practice is done and the energy is imbibed by you, that energy must be used for a higher purpose. If the energy is used, whatever the vital energy that you get by the practice is used for the digestion of the food, less energy goes here. That's another reason why most of you feel like you want to fall asleep after you have lunch or you have breakfast or dinner. Just imagine, does your bike stop and halt after you completely fill it with fuel? No, it gets the energy to drive ahead. Why aren't you working in the same manner? It's the same process. The food that you put inside you should be the fuel which can be used to run your mind, to run your body. You have to get the vigor and valor from the food that you consume for you to drive ahead and have a clear mindset. If that is not happening, stay away from it. Stay away from all those kinds of foods that make you mentally and physically lazy. You may experience this by even eating vegetarian food sometimes. It doesn't matter. It all depends on what kind of nature your body is all about. It all depends on your body type, the mindset. For some individuals, it doesn't matter if they eat vegetarian food or whether they consume non-vegetarian food. The mindset doesn't get affected at all. If you're that kind of a person, well and good. Go ahead and eat whatever you want. But until you reach that mind, if you're a kind of person who very easily gets affected, whose mind very easily gets affected by the food that they consume, abstain yourself from certain kinds of food. Stick to easily digestible food, which gives all the essential nutrients that are required for the body to function, and stay away from the food that makes you feel lazy. See, a person who stays in a monastery, he has a different food habit. A person who's a warrior who fights on the battlefield, he has a different kind of a meal plan. A person who works a menial job, he has a different routine with respect to food habits. Whatever you consume in terms of food is directly dependent on the kind of lifestyle you lead and the kind of work that you do. For someone who sits the entire day and works, if you consume a lot of food that has a lot of fat, doesn't make any sense. You end up putting on a lot of weight. For a warrior, it's very essential. He has this vigor and valor. He gets this vigor and valor from the energy, from the food that he eats. So what they consume a lot of food that's filled with spices that increases the what we call this increases the fire within. For someone who wishes to be seated silently without being disturbed from anything external or internal, if you consume food that's going to cause you a lot of disturbance when you sit in silence, does it make any sense if you stick to spicy food? No. When you're sitting in silence, you're disengaging and disconnecting from yourself internally and externally. That's one of the main reasons why we say, okay, when you're completely dedicated towards the practice and when you're on a path of reaching the silence that you seek, stick to the food that's very easily digestible. This is what we can term as sattvic food. So the first nature, sattva, being in harmony with oneself. What does that mean? Being with harmony with oneself means you understanding what your real nature is. See, if your real nature is being dynamic all the time, getting things done, and if you push yourself to become a person who sits in silence, you'll end up having multiple personality. You'll start fighting yourself. The world needs a balance of all of these people. We need people who are in a harmony with themselves. We need people who are very dynamic and who get things done. We need lazy people also. It's not possible. We can't say, okay, let the entire world move towards harmony. No, there'll be a biggest imbalance you can ever imagine. And it's not possible for each and every person in the world that is existing as humans to become a saint. It's not possible, and it's never going to be possible. We are divided. There will be division throughout the existence, and that is how it is. But there has to be a balance, and there has to be mutual respect among one another. The person who is in harmony with himself, what we call as a sattvic person, should respect rajasic person. The person in whom the rajas guna, what we call as rajas, is predominant. What is rajas? This is the second of the three gunas. Rajas means having this dynamic quality of wanting to get things done. Imagine yourself, go back in time and see for yourself as to how you were when you were in your early 20s or late 20s. There was always this fire within you to get things done. You never used to think. You never used to blink. When something comes into your mind, you do it then and there. And irrespective of however difficult the task is, you have the ability, you have the courage, and you have all the resources that you want in order to get those things done. This is what we call as rajas. The best example for explaining with respect to a person what rajas is are warriors who fight in warfare. Imagine what kind of energy, vigor, and valor they need to have when they are fighting against the enemy on the battlefield. Here, you can think yourself as an enemy over here. All of us have this enemy within us who pushes us and looks down upon us and makes us stay where we are. And what we do? We become a victim of him. We have to kill that enemy who is within us, keep him aside as if he never existed, kill that part of you, and then grow ahead in life. This rajas, the quality, the second guna, the rajo guna, what we call, it's very, very essential for each and every one of us to keep our enthusiasm to the highest level. When we don't cherish this enthusiasm that we have and we just start accepting life as it is, life becomes miserable. Each and every one of us have this inner fire within us. We want to do something that makes us feel alive. We want to know what is it that we are born for. We want to fulfill our cause for being born as humans. And yet, we don't. Why? Because you become lazy. You start accepting things. You become so comfortable with your comfort zone. You start missing out on seeing the real picture. Never, ever, 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 ever in your life lose the fire that keeps you alive within. This enthusiasm within you should never die. It doesn't matter how old you are if you're watching this. It doesn't matter at which stage of life you have got to know this information. It doesn't matter at all. Enthusiasm is not dependent on the age at all. You know this now, start applying it. Who knows, 20 years you may have not known about anything. You're knowing everything about yourself in the next 20 minutes. Life changes in the next 20 minutes. Enthusiasm is very, very essential. It doesn't matter if you're a youngster, if you're a teenager, if you're an adult, if you're in your mid 30s, mid 20s or mid 40s. Age has nothing to do with this. The qualities that human being has, it's the same throughout. What are these three? Being in harmony with oneself, being dynamic, and being lazy. Imagine you see the kids, how much energy they have when they are young. Where did that energy go in you after you grew up? Why did you let that energy and enthusiasm die? How many questions you used to ask? Where did the enthusiasm go? Why did you fall and become a victim of what was happening around you? Isn't this the biggest sin that you have committed for yourself? You have given up on yourself. You have lost confidence in yourself. That shouldn't happen. That's exactly why you go off the path, why you can't figure out where you are and for what reason you are where you are. Once the enthusiasm dies, once the zeal that you have within you, what we call as Rajoguna, the Rajas in you, the dynamic quality in you dies, the person whom you're born for dies. Never ever let that happen. You have to be the ruler of yourself. The kingdom of reality lies in you. Be the king of the reality that lies in you. Don't be the soldier of someone else's kingdom that exists outside. Why would you want to do something that's not close to your heart? Why do you want to go against your consciousness? You remain unhappy all your life just to please a couple of people or the society around you, and you lie to your inner core all through your life. You think you're making justice? You think you're doing a good job for yourself? It's the biggest sin to lie to yourself, and you've been doing that for years together. You don't like something and yet you pursue it just for financial needs. No. Pursue that which makes you feel happy, that which makes you feel alive. And I'm 100% sure each and every one of you by now know what is it that you want to do. Pursue that. Follow that wholeheartedly and see the miracle unfold. Success is bound to come to you. All you have to do is act. Never let the enthusiasm, never let the child in you die. If you let this enthusiasm and the zeal that you have towards wanting to achieve something die, you're more dead than being alive. This is one of the famous quotes of, Swami Vivekananda also. One of the greatest monks that has ever inspired me up until now. You're alive, you're awake, your eyes are wide open, you're physically fit, and yet you're dead. Why? Fulfilling your inner desires. You're not fulfilling your inner wish of who you are born to be. When you don't fulfill this part of you that makes you feel alive, you're more dead than being alive. You decide. Do you want to actually just live the life, or you want to live and learn and grow, and most importantly, glow? What do you want? Think about this. But never ever let the enthusiasm in you die away. This is what we call as Rajoguna. Rajoguna means being a Rajasic person doesn't mean okay, he or she has to be a warrior, he or she has to be a soldier or a fighter. This is what Rajoguna means. Never letting the fire in you die is all about having the Rajoguna. Never lose the enthusiasm in life. Doesn't matter who appreciates you, who doesn't appreciate you. Fight for that for which you're born for. When you start doing this, you'll start seeing the smile from within. You don't have to have any kind of external changes with respect to appearance. Just the glow in your eyes, just the sparkle in your eyes, just the facial expressions, everything just says, okay, this guy is fulfilling his purpose for why he is born here on earth. It's as simple as that. I feel more alive than I ever am when I start teaching yoga. When I start painting, I love doing craft. I was a very enthusiastic person, but I didn't pursue it. Now it's something that kindles the inner joy, inner child within me. Find that which kindles the inner child within you. Why I teach yoga? It's when I feel like, okay, I'm fulfilling the purpose for which I'm here. Each one of us have this. Find what is yours. It may be yoga, it may not be yoga, it may be something else. But once you find that, once you feel like, okay, you're driving the energy, you're deriving the energy, and you're driving the energy from the work that you're being done, from the work that you're doing, consider, okay, I've reached that. And this may be the first step. You may have to upgrade after that also, because if you just keep on pursuing this over a long period of time, you again feel like, okay, you've hit a dead end. You reach a stage, after that, you have to improvise and go ahead. Never ever lose this enthusiasm. Never ever let go of this inner fire. You have to keep fueling the fire. If you let the fire within you die, you're dead on the inside. Never ever do that mistake. I did that last year. After the pandemic, I completely lost everything. I completely lost the mindset that I had. I completely lost control of myself. It took a lot of time. And imagine this was just 1 year. For a person who has been in complete control of everything that was happening over the last 10 years, all of a sudden 1 year, everything changes. It took me almost a year to come back to the normal stage. And imagine if you've been leading a life like this for decades together, or for like more than 8 years, 9 years, it'll take a couple of years, but you'll eventually reach that. But never ever let the fire in you die. For you to become a sattvic person, being a rajasic person is very essential. The last one, tamoguna, what we call as a tamasic person or a tamasic food. This is where we call a person as lazy. The best example is couch potato. Absolutely not interested in any kind of activity, any kind of work, any kind of growth in life. I'm pretty sure you would remember at least one person who is like this, or whom you would have encountered in your life or in your workspace, in your family or in your own house. There is one person right now who does absolutely nothing, just eats, sleeps, watches TV, drinks water, then again goes back to sleep. Does absolutely nothing. This is the ideal definition of tamoguna, tamas. These are the people who have absolutely no interest in growth. And these are the ones you have to stay away from. Don't look down upon them, because they may be like this right now. They may evolve into being a rajasic person, and they may evolve into being a sattvic person also. Have patience. Even each and every one of us was like this. Even I have to be lazy sometimes for me to push myself into being enthusiastic, into me wanting to become more harmonious with my own self. You can't say tamasic people are our biggest distraction, are not needed on this earth, and you just get rid of them. No, you can learn a lot of things from lazy people. A lot of things. I myself have learned a lot of things, because I could never think like a lazy person. It was very difficult for me. Even to this day, I can't think. What did I do? I started appreciating them for them being lazy, and I learned a lot of lessons from them, which I could never ever have ever imagined. The way they think is just absolutely crazy. I can't even express the things that I've learned just by observing how a lazy person lives in life. And I've lived a couple of months by being that kind of a person. Honestly, it's just not my nature. For certain individuals, being lazy is their inner nature. You can't just get it out of them. You accept them, you learn from them, you go ahead and you grow ahead. That's exactly what I do. If you keep breaking your head, planning to change them, wanting to get them a new habit in their life, and if they really aren't interested, don't bother. It's of no use. You'll be just banging your head on the wall, and nothing's gonna happen. You end up hurting your own head. Learn from them. Yeah, this may sound really crazy, but learn from them. Just move ahead in life. And it's always essential. Even we, for a person who is dynamic, who's rajasic, who's tamasic, who's sattvic, a person who's with harmony, even these people are, it's very essential, even they have this tamasic quality. See, if you aren't lazy, you can't fall asleep. Because we are physically tired, because we are mentally tired, that because of this tiredness, we want to fall asleep most of the times. So this is an indication which says, okay, there is still tamasic guna within us. Even in me, there is tamas. There is laziness sometimes. At some point of the day or the other, I do procrastinate. I do waste the time. I just become lazy. But that is for a very, very short duration of time, maybe like 20 minutes or 30 minutes or 1 hour. But rest all the time, I'm alert. Most importantly, I'm alive. It's very, very essential for all of us to be with harmony with ourselves, to be a warrior with ourselves, and to be lazy with ourselves. We need all these three qualities in the beginning of life. Once you take a path of sadhana, when you've completely devoted your life to the path of yoga, and you are living in an ashram under a teacher, you are living in a monastery under a guru, everything changes after that. But until then, all these three qualities, sattva, rajas, and tamas, is very essential. Coming to talk about with respect to the food, what is a tamasic food? Tamasic food is that which makes you feel heavy and which puts you to sleep after you consume it. Any food that doesn't make you feel alive, that doesn't make you feel fresh, stop consuming it. Never ever even dream of eating it. Doesn't matter how beautiful it looks, doesn't matter how tasty it is. If it is not making you feel alive, if it is not making you grow, if it's not making you glow, don't. See the bigger picture. Why do you want to eat something and then feel dead on the inside and end up putting on a lot of weight and having a lot of digestive problems when you have the option of eating food that is healthy, that is nutritious, that is going to make you feel alive and vibrant? Why would you? You have a long life to lead, right? Why do you want to spend a lot of money on getting yourself fixed in the later part of your life when you can just have one simple habit of having proper, planned, nutritious, easily digestible meal every single day and keep yourself healthy and fit until you die? Tamasic food is that food which makes you lazy mentally and physically. And once you become lazy mentally and physically, intellectually, I don't even have to get started with that. You can't think at all. Once you're physically lazy and you're mentally just cut off, your intellect doesn't work. How is it possible? That's why when anyone leads a student life, they aren't fed. When a person leads a student life, they are fed food which is only essential for them to think. You don't feed food to youngsters to such an extent where they just put on a lot of weight. It doesn't make any sense. You give them food which is essential for them to think and is essential for the body to nourish. You give them all that is needed, all the nutrients and the minerals that are needed for the body and the bone to develop. Instead, if you just feed them all the garbage, what happens? They can't think. And then you say, okay, my kid is not able to pay attention towards whatever I'm saying, or he's not listening to what the teacher says or what the parent says. Why? Because the food that is being consumed by the youngster's body is disturbing the intelligence. So this is what tamas is. Tamas doesn't just mean, okay, being lazy and inert. It comes with respect to, you can compare it with respect to the body, you can compare it with respect to the mind, you can compare it with respect to the food habits also. When it comes to food, it doesn't matter if you're following the path of yoga, if you're following the path of something else. It doesn't matter at all. Understand what is the nature of your body and consume that food which is most ideal for your body and the mind and the intelligence. If you consume that food which your body, mind, and intellect doesn't accept, it just becomes miserable. You start leading a life that is not you. For me, a lot of people ask, why is it that I don't consume meat? It is not my nature. I have zero inclination towards consumption of meat. I have zero inclination towards consumption of alcohol. There is no need. There's no inclination at all. I don't even have the urge towards consumption. Is it bad? Definitely it is bad for my system. See if it is bad for your system. See if you're happy, if you're enjoying, and if you're growing, and if you're deriving the energy from the food that you eat and from the drinks that you're consuming, go ahead. But even you deep down know that from the food that you're eating and from the drinks that you're consuming, you're just harming your body. Why would you want to do that? When you have that common sense saying, okay, that I shouldn't do this and this, Each and every one of you know, every one of us have this inner voice which says, okay, stay away from this. And in spite of that, you suppress this inner voice and you do what you need to do. What happens? You're just killing the inner child within you. Why would you want to do that? Don't you want to respect this child within you? Don't you want to respect this inner voice within you? Try to align yourself with the inner self. Connect to the inner consciousness. Understand what your true nature is. Understand who you are. Understand what is it that makes you feel alive. If being a dynamic person is what makes you feel alive, be a dynamic person. If being in silence with yourself, always contemplating on one or the other thing, having intellectual discussions, being in silence, visiting silent places, mountains, visiting monastery, if that's your thing, go ahead. If that's your nature, go ahead. If being lazy, not doing anything and just, wasting away the time sitting the whole day on the couch, if that's your nature, go ahead. If you're enjoying it, go ahead. But never deviate from your nature. It's very, very essential. Understand what kind of a person you are. Or if you're kind of a person who has a part of all of these, you are a silent person at one point of the day, good. You're a dynamic person during one point of the day, good. You're a lazy person at another point of the day, good. It is impossible for a person to be just in silence throughout the day, to be completely dynamic throughout the day, to be completely lazy the entire day. If you're this kind of a person who is not just belong to one of these categories but have all of these within you, very good. That means you are in balance. You are lazy at one point of the day when the body and the mind is tired, very good. Sit, rest, then fall asleep. You're very dynamic when it comes to getting things done, very good. You're very much in silence and very much in tune with yourself when it's needed, go ahead, very good. All these qualities, all these gunas, if it's balanced within you, be it the sattva guna, be it the rajo guna, be it the tamo guna, there's nothing more you can ask for. So these are the three gunas: sattva, rajas, and tamas. Being with harmony with oneself, being dynamic or being enthusiastic with oneself and with the people around you, and being lazy. So this is what very, very briefly I've explained as to what the three gunas are. Let me know how you felt in the comments below. I look forward to reading them. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and do share among those interested. I hope this was informative. I look forward to reading your comments. I'll see you in the next one.